Let's talk about some of the other kind of diversity horrors that you and I have covered, actually. One was your brilliant story, of course, from a couple of weeks ago about the West Yorkshire police, who, in the name of diversity, have banned white people from applying to be coppers. I mean, as I say, this is they call it diversity and inclusivity. But their form of diversity is exclusive. It excludes people. So if you're white, you are excluded from applying to be a copper in West Yorkshire. Where is the inclusivity in that?
I mean, this has infected so many of our institutions, and it won't just be West Yorkshire Police. They happen to get caught red-handed, but it's everywhere. And the paranoia surrounding it. I mean, in another story that you and I broke, Kev, remember poor Gary Coston, who worked in the Home Office, well, for the contractors doing deportations of foreign criminals. He, poor man, lost his job simply for sharing a social media post that raised some questions that included, from what I can recall, the word Muslim. Nothing disparaging at all, simply a news headline. You know, this is so corrosive. We are not making ourselves stronger as a nation. We are not prosecuting crime or preventing crime or controlling our borders or becoming as good as we can be as an armed forces by fussing around endlessly about whether we've got enough women or brown people or people of different religions serving in these very sensitive and important posts. It should be down to who can do the job best. And, you know, I feel very sorry for people that try to expose this from their various organisations, because no good can come of it as far as they're concerned. You know, they pay the most terrible price. And in some cases, as in, I suspect the case of this Royal Marine, you know, there's a naivety in the way they go about it. You know, they are very passionate. This guy is a young man, and he almost certainly just miscalculated the hell that would break loose if he dared to tread into this toxic forum. And I mean, likely will lose everything career-wise and will have to become a politician or something. But it is such a dangerous thing for people to expose. But I would appeal to people to keep on doing it if they feel they can, because only by knowing what's going on can we fight against it. Yeah,
and you just imagine them. You talk about the NHS, as I say, this brave nurse, Jennifer Melly, will be joining me in half an hour or so, a victim of ludicrous pursuit of diversity and, you know, inclusivity towards trans people. Fine. This guy was a convicted paedophile in jail, brought to the hospital for treatment, demanded to be called she and her, and this nurse said, well, no, for two reasons. She said that he was having a particular procedure that was rather male, shall we say, and secondly, she's a Christian. She's a very devout Christian. She said, it's against my religion to call a man a woman. I'm not going to do it. He actually physically lunged at her and called her the N-word. Nothing happens to him. She gets suspended. This is the NHS that spends £40 million a year on 800 diversity officers. The same NHS that constantly complains about not having enough money. It's a national sickness, this. It is turning Britain insane.
I'm so glad you used the word sick there. Let me repeat it. The NHS is sickeningly woke. And that case that you've just described there, and I look forward to the interview, is truly disgraceful. You know, that individual who wanted to be called Mrs. or whatever it was he wanted to be called, as you say, had an appalling background, was extremely lucky not to be called something properly insulting, because that is what they deserved for the way that they were behaving. And there is no way on the planet that poor woman should have been disciplined in the way that she was. You know, the NHS is always moaning away about how difficult it is to hold on to staff and how well they look after their own people. Well, do they really? Or are they pandering to this kind of absolute claptrap?
Well, that's exactly what it is. As I say, this is a dedicated nurse of some experience, and the only thing she did was to say, I'm sorry, I'm not calling you she or her. Now, this was before the Supreme Court's ruling, her suspension. So the reason I'm very interested to talk to Jennifer tonight is what is happening now? Given that the Supreme Court ruling said, well, frankly, if you're not biologically born female, you don't really have the right to call yourself a woman or a female. And if nobody else wants to do that, that's their right. In fact, it was always our right. You know, I wouldn't go round saying to, you know, trans people, oh, you know, I don't care what you want to be called, I'll call you a bloke or whatever, because it might, you know, upset them. But if I fancy doing it, why shouldn't I do it? But if people do that, they're treated like criminals. It is not against the law to do what trans people call misgendering them. So if they want to be called women, and I want to, or you or I, Isabel, want to call them blokes, we can. That's the law. It's particularly the law after the Supreme Court's ruling a couple of weeks ago. So I'll look forward to talking to Jennifer. And in the meantime, thanks again for an extraordinary story, and the switchboard's already lighting up. So thank you very much, Isabel, and we'll talk again soon. That's the brilliant Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International editor.